Nice to see you again. Thank you very much for coming. This is one of the latest articles from Clive. This is one of the favourites. And God inspires, I write them down. God's got a wonderful sense of humour and He's a very happy God. And He likes us to be happy. And here's a spiritual play on a story, parable, and you'll enjoy it. So let's do the Wonky Arrow. Here is retold an ancient story from a sort of mythological. Has no setting, no place in history, yet there it is, that amazing story of the Wonky Arrow. Where the arrow ever came from, how it ever got there, well, that is all lost in the dim, dark and dusty past, but there it is. It has always seemed to be right there. It was always usually the first to be gathered up and placed back in the basket, the arrow basket, after archery practice, as it was so wonky that it never flew very straight or never went very far. It was just wonky, sort of wonky as it was made from a wonky twig. But it was always the very last arrow shot at the end of the archery practice, and often ignored or never shot. Every archer had more than once tried and failed every time. Junior archers had shot it many times, but it was just wonky. It was certainly great practice, but those sleek and polished, perfectly straight ones were always the first to be grasped whenever you wanted to hit your mark. And so time marched on. The wonky arrow was always there in the arrow basket, sort of mocking archers with failure and jeering at your fellow archers as failure was assured. Well, one day an army set themselves up in array in front of the castle. They mocked them. They insulted them. They called them the most derogatory names. It certainly is not nice. So all the archers gathered themselves at their allotted post for defence and attack. The large baskets of arrows were strategically placed handily, and then it happened. The first wave of attack. Then the second. The master archer called for patience, restraint, hold. Wave after wave of arrows rattled in, but the walls were well made and well designed, so all was kept safe. Then the commander came out and mocked some more. "Give us your best." Restraint. Then the cry rang out, "Attack!" And back flew arrows, straight and true. Most found their mark and the slain fell, and then it was over. The arrow baskets were all empty. Then the commander came out once more and mocked some more. "Give us your best! Is that all you got?" Mocking, insulting, calling them out to surrender, always mocking. The master archer went from bowman to bowman. Everything was empty. Even the better of the arrows that were shot in had been sent right back. And then there it was. Proudly it sat, its fletching feathers shining in the light. Only one. So he picked it up, and everybody knew what he held in his hand. All had tried and failed. It was always there. The last, the ignored, but this time it was proudly lifted in place. That mighty English longbow was pulled all the way back. All held their breath. Then a cheer rang out, "Fly, Wonky Arrow!" And so it did. For the very first time, it flew perfectly straight. And when the commander saw it, it was far too late. Incoming was that Wonky Arrow. It hit dead centre, right on target, the very first time, and had sunk in deep, and the last breath was taken, the last insult was thrown, and as a giant tree it just straight and true fell over backwards, with a wonky arrow protruding out of his chest like a wonky branch on a mighty tree. The attack instantly ceased and dissipated, like a fog swept away on a morning breeze. All hands to the pump. As everyone swept out of the castle, their dead were hastily buried in the mass grave, and an oak tree was planted over them to mark the place. Life returned to normal, and the great hall was adorned with the treasures and trinkets from the battle, to be displayed proudly next to that which was gathered from those that had died before. vainly trying to overcome them. But if you ever go there, right there in the Great Hall, right in the place of honour, mounted to a beautifully polished piece of mahogany, there for all to see is the Wonky Arrow. There are gold letters and there are few words. Actually, I need to take 3 words. 3 words is all it takes. And this is the simple inscription: the Wonky Arrow. The Bible tells many stories of things that appear to be useless, who are actually the very means of salvation and redemption. Goliath came cursing and insulting the armies of God, but a wet-nosed mere wonky child dressed as a shepherd caused his fall. The wonky child who took on the greatest master warrior of the greatest and most victorious army anywhere around, just a wonky arrow. It was once asked why David took 5 stones. Well, it appears Goliath had 4 other brothers, and there were 4 other stones, one for each of them, if they were ever foolish enough to advance to attack. Isaiah 53, 3 and 4. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. We hid as it was our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Matthew 21:42. Jesus said unto them, Did you never read in the Scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected, the same is become the head of the corner? This is the Lord's doing, and is marvellous in our eyes. Rejected, just like a wonky arrow. What appeared to be of no earthly use, or maybe even grossly imperfect, maybe even falling well short, like a shepherd boy, like a prisoner nailed to a cross outside Jerusalem, a huge ugly chunk of rock, a wonky arrow, all in the hands of God become something of immense value. A wonky arrow in the hands of the master bowman brought victory, peace, and salvation. We each are imperfect. Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Revelation 12:11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. Just like a wonky arrow in the hands of the master archer, so we each have our blemishes, but in God's hands we are worth everything and will accomplish amazingly. Are you willing to place yourself in God's hand? Just let God use you. Let him lead and direct. You may well have fallen short, but in a time of crisis, stand. Even when all have fled and left, you are now the last chance. You can be that which brings victory. Trust God, let him direct and lead, and always remember the wonky arrow. Thank you very much for being here with us. Remember to walk softly, to deal kindly, and to trust God. And if you can help me out by pressing the like, the subscribe, and the bell icon, you'll get notification of the next. And until then, please stay safe.